Okay, so if they decide to go to Kilmarnock, I've got that ready. And if they decide to go up to meet Skane, I've got that. That'll be for Skane. If they decide to go on that adventure I thought of while we were on vacation, I've got that. What if they decide to look at Sulex's tower instead? Hello, everyone! I'm Father Aaron. Welcome to the Dungeon Minister! Alright, big stuff. Big stuff. Our heroes have just helped to thwart the attack on Honeywood. The second time the village has been attacked. I think the heroes might have something to do with this. Maybe they're attracting... well, anyway, they have helped to thwart that attack, and they are now in the village. It is just moments after the end of our last episode, right? The next session we picked up, and I actually said, let's backtrack a little, right? Let's backtrack to the moment you rush in through the gates. The werewolves, having seen Evalio running away, the werewolves began to melt away. And of course, seeing the werewolves melt away, his army disintegrating, the kobolds went with the werewolves. When he saw this, Bargle decided it was time to get out of Dodge himself, and all of this has just happened. We are at the moment when the residents of Honeywood, seeing the enemy armies fleeing, have opened the gates. They do not give chase, right? They don't give chase. There are a couple places here and there where werewolves or kobolds or some undead, because Bargle has been making some... yeah. Anyway, I don't know out of who, by the way. I don't know which graveyard he raided to get those. I don't like to think. But in the places where that's still going on, those fights linger a bit longer. But for the most part, it's over, so they open the gates up, and the heroes of Honeywood rush back into their adopted hometown to see how it's going, to see how everyone is. Well, the answer's not great. Sulex was far from the only casualty of this battle, of this attack, of this siege, which has been going on for nearly a week. One thing that the heroes want is they want an update. What happened? How did it all, occur? Well, the attack came in the very early evening. It was still light out when they started seeing the movement of large groups of, werewolves, as they turned out to be, but they were human at the time, at the edge of the woods, clearly bent on no good. They came on the road that leads to Kilmarnock. They used the road, and out from the woods they came, and farmers who were still working in their fields or finishing up their day saw them coming and ran before them and alerted the village of what was coming. The villagers closed up the gates, and all of the town guards were roused, those who weren't already on duty, and put on the wall. Villagers who were not in the guard took up weapons of their own, and they waited. Now, preparations had been made before this, which made the defense of Honeywood against this particular army a little easier. A couple of things. One, the mayor of Honeywood has been investing in silver weapons. It's expensive. It costs quite a bit to arm his troops with silver weapons, but it has proven to be a godsend because they were able to fight against werewolves. The other thing is, it was discovered that the herbalist in town, as it happens, had wolfsbane in her gardens. Once the attack happened, and it became apparent that they were werewolves doing the attacking, the herbalist, whose name is Kate, by the way, the herbalist went to the mayor and said, look, I have these herbs, and I'm told they're good against werewolves. If you want them, take as many as you need. So, each of the town guards has a spear, and on the end of that spear, around the point of the spear, the head of the spear, which is silver now, around that spearhead is tied a bundle of wolfsbane. So it's a double weapon when they use it. So it's actually quite effective against the werewolves. This is why they were able to hold out against the initial assaults. Then, the attackers, realizing that the werewolves were having a hard time, recruited the kobolds. So, the first wave was all werewolves and Bargle, and then came the kobolds. After the first wave was repelled a couple of times, they went back, and a day later, they returned, but this time with kobolds in tow. And so the kobolds were actually sent for, they were the shock troops, right? If you can imagine kobolds being shock troops. The kobolds were shocked, I can tell you that.
We sure were. Yeah, quite a shock for us.
I'll bet, seeing as you just work in a sound booth. Well, a great shock for the kobolds, and it actually came close to working, right? But that is who the village was holding out against. That's why the attack didn't succeed at first. It's why it took a little while, and eventually it fell into this rhythm of daily attacks from kobolds, nightly attacks from werewolves, and Bargle and Sulex dueling across the wall, with Sulex mostly shooting and running, because he wasn't as powerful, right? As we eventually found out. Meanwhile, the mayor has expressed his own anxiety, his own fear about his daughter, who was out of the village when the attack happened. We also heard this from her perspective in another episode. At any rate, he is talking about how afraid he is. He doesn't know where she is. And Touchberry blurts out, "Oh, she's fine. She's on her way. We saw her." And then he feels the eyes of the other characters. The player feels the eyes of the other players on him. Right? Because this is her secret to tell, not theirs, right? So you're like, she's fine, right? Well, eventually she does come into the village a few days after the attack, and she simply says that she was hiding with some farmers, right? He's not going to go check. He's got enough to do in repairing the village and getting things back in order, so he doesn't follow that up or anything. Now, during this period, of course, there's a lot to do. The mayor is getting walls repaired, making sure that people get healing when they need it, burying the dead. There are a number of funerals, Sulex's among them. It was a bit, we didn't role play the whole thing, but we talked about what kind of funeral it was, what people said, and things like that. We also covered what is done with the dead. This is not something that we discussed earlier. We talked about people dying at the previous attacks and all this kind of thing, but what is done with the dead, we decided there is a columbarium underneath the church, and that this culture cremates their dead, and the remains are in an urn, and they're placed underneath the church. So that's what happens to Sulex, among others. The mayor's worries do not end with the village, however, because during the siege, actually during that lull between the first wave and the return, when the kobolds were brought in, a messenger arrived from Kilmarnock pleading for help. Send troops, send whoever you have, right? From Little Honeywood, which has, a dozen or so guards. Send them, we are under attack. The attack on Honeywood was not isolated. It was part of a larger move. The Baron of Kilmarnock has marched north and besieged Kilmarnock. The civil war is on. So now the mayor is wondering, should I send troops? Right? I mean, it's a feudal system. When the Lord calls, you're supposed to answer. You're supposed to send aid. And Kilmarnock needs help. What do I do? Eventually he decides he has to. He has to send them, right? Now, he gives them a few days to rest first, and he puts out a general call. If any villager wishes to answer the call of Count Kilmarnock and go to the aid of the city, then we will equip you and we will provision you on your trip, right? We'll give you the means to do it if you will go. And some do answer the call, including from way back in the first attack on Honeywood, at the Battle of the Gap, this farm woman who had gone crazy with a scythe and was mowing down enemies right, left, and center. I decide her name is Gerta, and she is equipped, specifically by Fleetwood, who has a set of armor that he no longer uses because now he has dragon scale armor, right, that he got from Balamorg, right? Not as a present. He took the scales off its dead body. Fleetwood has this habit of collecting dead body parts. Anyway, his old chainmail rather, and he has his old short sword, because now he has a magic short sword. But he's held on to his old short sword this whole time. So she now has a proper sword and chainmail armor, so she's better equipped. Now, this was one of the potential things that our players could do. This was one of the avenues they could pursue. I like to lay out on a variety of options, things they could go do, and I generally have some plans around each potential avenue. And of course, sometimes they just take a left turn and do something I didn't expect at all, and then I have to race to catch up. But I'd had some things which I thought were likely. Now, usually what I do is at the end of a session, we end it with, what are you going to do from here? Where will you go from this place? If they've come to a landing spot, then what is your next adventure? What do you think you're going to pursue? And if they're in the middle of something, then it's kind of obvious where they're going to go. Well, I do that so that I can prepare, because I like to have some groundwork done, right? Well, last time, though, the death of Sulex, it was all a little too emotional and heavy, so I didn't ask that question. Because I thought, oh, they'll probably want to go down to Kilmarnock and help with the siege down there, right? They'd want to help break that siege. They want to do something there. So I had some thoughts, right? They had also arranged with the giant Skane that they were going to meet Skane at the top of the mountain pass, and if they couldn't make it there, then he was to come down to the west end of the Great Northern Sea, and they would meet him at the keep, the keep on the Northern Sea. And while we were on vacation, I had gotten an idea for a dungeon adventure that I thought would be kind of cool, so I had that rattling around in the back of my mind. And then there's Sulex's tower, right? Touchberry had asked during the last session, at the end of the last session, what's going to happen to his tower, and well, that's kind of an open question. What will happen to his tower? Sulex did not build it himself. He was not high enough level to build his own tower. He did not have permission from the sodality of magic users. He had no permission. So he was a little bit of a rogue. He was kind of off on the edge of things. But here in Honeywood, no one really cared, right? It's so far from the center of action. Who cares? Well, to whom does that belong now? Right? It really didn't belong to Sulex in a lot of ways, but who else was going to use it? And does it belong to Honeywood? And the players are like, maybe we could move in there, right? Well, I decided that Sulex, even though he had done this without permission, at some point someone must have heard that he was up here, right? So the sodality sends some representatives to the village. A wizard, a very high-level wizard, accompanied by a couple of apprentices and helpers, right, show up one day, very mysterious-looking, very, crazy, old wizard-looking. They head over to Sulex's tower, and they spend their time there and eating down at the Copper Kettle pub. They're either in the tower or they're having a meal at the pub. Otherwise, nobody sees them. They do see flashing lights every once in a while from the windows of Sulex's tower. But other than that, no one's heard anything of them. Now, all of this is happening over a period of about a week, because the players have said we need to get ourselves back up to full health, right? We need to spend some time. And during that, we role-play a few things. Interactions with villagers, with Sir Trevor, asking about their adventures, and they discover that Sir Trevor has actually gained a level of experience as well. He actually had gained it previous to this battle. So he was a 4th level fighter going into all of this. They talk to Rupert, who is absolutely unconcerned about the seeds, but refuses to say any more about it. He shushes them about the whole thing. He's really concerned about the fact that his roof was set on fire, and who's going to fix that for him. They talk to the herbalist a bit about the herbs, and they get their hands on some wolfsbane of their own. They talk to the mayor. They talked to Alienora a couple of times, and she's like, I have not told my father yet. Please don't reveal my secret. All this kind of stuff, right? Sister Abigail says she needs to leave. She has her own duties to attend to, and she doesn't like living in the city. She's a druid. Druids like to live in forests. They don't like to live in villages and things like that. Rupert. So she leaves. And all this time, these wizards are there. So, one evening, at the Copper Kettle, the heroes go in for a meal, and there they see the wizards huddled in a corner table. Now, of course, Touchberry has no particular tact whatsoever, no social graces. He just walks right over and says, "Hey, I'm Touchberry. What are you doing here?"
What? What? Oh, hello, Master Halfling. We don't want any.
"Well, hello to you too. What are you doing here?"
The sorceress Sodality has taken possession of the tower occupied by the late Sulex Ortmeyer.
"Well, Sulex was our friend. Shouldn't we know what's going on?"
No, as a matter of fact, you should not.
"Well, all right then." And he turns to go back to the party. As he leaves, he hears over his shoulder,
That's all we need. That crew finding out about the chamber?
"Wonder what that's about." Well, anyway, what should we do? Where should we go next? Well, no, actually. They decide that they are going to go and meet Skane. Yes, the Baron is attacking Kilmarnock, but they realize there's probably not a lot they can do about it on the scale that they're talking. The Baron is very powerful. This isn't, a few dozen werewolves, the rabble of kobolds and things like that. This is a professionally trained army. It's a major power. Not something that they need to get involved in right now. All right. Sulex's tower currently is mysterious and intriguing, but apparently off limits to them. We should go and meet Skane. If we don't meet him, he may start looking for us, and then he may find Honeywood, and Honeywood does not need an inconvenienced frost giant searching around for us, right? This is not what we need, especially if we're somewhere else when he shows up. Let's go see if we can find Skane. For this journey, they decide they want to take their horses and their mule. They want to take their mounts with them because they really haven't used them very much, and that would make it a lot quicker, right? So the first thing they do is they go and they find out how their horses are doing, and they're all right. They survived the attack. The stables were burned, but the hostler got the horses out of the stables before anything happened. So they're still safe and alive and all that kind of good stuff. All right. They saddle them up and they get ready to go. In the morning, they bid farewell to Honeywood and head west on the road which goes to Kilmarnock. At the turning, they go north on the little-used path that leads to the keep. Now, it's much faster on horseback, about 1.5 times as fast, so about 50% faster to ride horse. If they rode them full gallop, it would be much faster, but you can't do that to a horse. But it's still faster than walking on foot, so a trip that normally would take them a day and a half, they have completed by the end of the first day. So the light is fading as they come to the north end of that road, and the woods begin to thin out, and ahead of them they see the bulk of the keep looming in front of them. And at the top of the keep, they see a flag. What on earth? What kind of flag is it? Well, it's green. It's sort of a dirty green color. Whose flag is that? Well, let's do an intelligence check and see if any of you recognize it, if you happen to know it. Nobody knows whose flag it is. It doesn't look like any flag you've ever seen. In fact, it doesn't really look like much of a flag at all. That might be someone's cloak hanging off of a stick. Yeah? Yep, there's a hood. It's a cloak. It's someone's cloak. Someone's put a cloak up as a flag. What? They begin to get closer to this keep, right? A familiar place. They've been here many times, but it has a sort of ominous feel. And as they approach, they get within maybe 70, 80 feet of the front door when an arrow comes sailing out from the tower and strikes Fleetwood. Once and a second, twice. 2 arrows sail out, and a voice from the tower.
Don't you get any closer. Yay!
Yeah, you guys again. The kobolds. After the attack was repulsed and the werewolves vanished, the kobolds didn't know what to do with themselves. They'd been gathered together. They had this sort of military fervor going on and nothing to do with it, so they came and they occupied the keep. Why not? And some poor traveler they'd encountered on the road en masse and had robbed and beaten and left for dead, because he was dead, and they took his cloak, and that's their flag now. You're a real classy bunch, aren't you?
Hey, we work with what we got.
Anyway, now they're in control of the keep, and the players who had intended to camp there are out in the cold. Well, what do? Oh, I don't really want to take a castle by force. I don't know if we can even take this castle by force. I don't want to try that. Here's an idea. Let's camp just out of bow range and keep a close eye on the place and watch for what happens. And we'll light a nice big fire so they can see we're here, and we'll just watch to see what they do. Okay. What will they do anyway? All right. They stay inside the keep. They're not stupid. They're not coming out. They know that they're protected inside, and they don't want anything to do with these dangerous-looking folks. So they stay inside, the kobolds do, and just hurl taunts and threats at the party. Well, they camp. While they're camping, they decide they're going to go hunting. And it's Fleetwood and Touchberry go off hunting with their bow and arrow. And they get into the woods, and so I decide, well, how am I gonna do hunting? I know. I will roll for random encounters, and if I get a random encounter, I'll make it something they can hunt instead of a bugbear. Well, I guess I could hunt a bugbear, but I roll for random encounter, and about 2 hours into the woods, they see something. A deer. All right, now we have to bring it down. How many hit points does a deer have? Well, there's an animal herd in the expert book. All right, we'll extrapolate from that. This deer is going to have 2 hit points. It's not a big animal, but it's big enough. All right, it looks pretty big. And as luck would have it, it comes up with 5 hit points, which is not very tough. Okay. Touchberry decides to use his halfling sneakiness. He can successfully hide 90% of the time, and off into the underbrush he goes. Now, I roll for it, and I say to Fleetwood's player, I say, Touchberry just vanishes in front of your eyes. You can't see him. He rolled something ridiculously low, like a 17 or something. He just vanishes before your eyes. And so clearly he's going to get a free shot at the deer, and I'm going to get as close as I can. So he gets within 50 feet of the animal, which gives him a +1 bonus for range attacks. He already has a +1 because he's a halfling. They're particularly good with ranged attacks. So he's got a +2, and down it goes. 1 shot. So that was pretty cool. Anyway, they haul the deer back. They skin it, gut it, eat it, roast it, and they waft the smells toward the castle, trying to taunt the kobolds. Next morning, they wake up, and Fleetwood has an idea. He's healed a little bit from the arrows, but it still stings. He walks within, just outside of range, and he calls out to the kobolds. He says, "I want to talk with you." Right? And there's some little head pokes up.
What you say? What you say?
"Give us passage around the keep. Don't shoot at us."
Why we no shoot? We like shoot. We shoot you.
And he sees the bow come up. And Fleetwood says, wait. If you let us pass, we will give you all the lovely deer meat that we have left over. We killed a deer last night. There's a whole bunch of it left. It'll all be yours, plus these coins. And he holds up some of the pyrite coins that they had found in a fountain way back when. We'll give you all these shiny coins.
You pay toll. You pay toll, 'cause kobolds are in control. Kobolds are strong.
Yes, you are in control. This is your castle, and we will pay you if you let us pass. So eventually the kobolds fall for this. They leave a little pile of coins and the meat and go around. The kobolds don't shoot. They live up to their end of the bargain. And off they go. Where? Well, Skane's clearly not here, so where would he be? He'd be on his way here, presumably. What would the path be that he'd take? Probably down from Hrothgar's eyes. He said he knew about it. So let's go to Hrothgar's eyes. All right, another trip up north.